from. There's only one.
But the chairperson, LC3s, are managing them. So they are not a security threat.
It took the interjection of the LC5 chairperson for Soroti district for the picture to change.
These people will never go to any village without land. Now, who directs them that this is the only village with a lot of land? Free land. So they have agents, and the LOCs that we're talking about, they are the agents.
Recently appointed by President Yoweri Museveni, General David Muhoozi is part of this three-man team meant to oversee the peaceful handling of the Balalo issue. They were not impressed by the RDC's report.
Our focus was actually like, Soroti, there's no problem, but the more you talked sweet words about it, the more I knew we are unfortunately in bed with collaborators.
The RDCs had attempted to prevent the team from moving to Soroti for similar inquiries as had been the case in Acholi and Lango.
We have not been sent here for a joke. We are not going to play those dirty games. We are coming back here to find out whom you are keeping within yourselves. It's very dangerous.
The Balalo have been in the limelight for invading people's land, destroying people's crops, causing a public outcry in affected areas, including Teso. To join in condemning acts of sabotage by RDCs was the Prime Minister, Robin Anabanja.
So you, the chairs of security in your respective districts, should not come here to joke around. Issues of security are issues of security. There are a number of factors of development. Security is number one. Whether you have land, whether you have energy, whether what, if you don't have security, you cannot develop.
The Premier was equally concerned that despite this being a national issue, RDCs in Teso were attempting to water it down.
Use the powers you have to re-examine your reports. Hope the reports are right. If they are not, then we shall also investigate and get the rightful reports.
The issue of the Balalo caught the attention of the President, prompting him to direct the Prime Minister to act accordingly. A three-man team of ministers has since been appointed, with this engagement in Soroti being part of the mission to find a lasting remedy. Henry Okrut, UBC.
Thank you so much, Henry Okrut. In more stories, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni is in Tanzania to attend an oil and gas meeting and later hold bilateral talks with his Tanzanian counterpart, Samia Suluhu Hassan. President Museveni is expected to give a keynote speech during the private sector organized symposium that is set to discuss opportunities presented by the 1,445 kilometers East African crude oil pipeline project. President Museveni is in Tanzania for a 3-day working visit to Tanzania that began this Saturday, where together with President Suluhu, they held joint talks on the progress of the $3.5 billion ESCOP project to be jointly constructed between the two countries, and which is expected to connect Uganda's oil field to Tanzania's port of Tanga. The two countries in April this year signed the host government agreement, shareholder agreement and tariff agreement, 3 key agreements to kick off the construction of the East African crude oil pipeline with France's Total and China's Sinopec. But the project still faces financing blues after some European lenders walked away from requests to finance it. The ESCOP project is expected to create over 5,000 jobs directly and over 20,000 others indirectly. Members of NRM Museveni pressure group that campaigned for the President Museveni in the 2020 elections in eastern Uganda are split over resource sharing. This is after allegations that mobilizers received 18 billion Ugandan shillings that was allegedly not evenly distributed. However, the naysayers are being asked to prove that indeed they said 18 billion Ugandan shillings was ever dished out.
The Elgon sub-region was a hotbed of political activity and a budding stronghold to the opposition. This prompted NRM mobilizers to aim at winning over the opposition. The initiative was undertaken by Museveni pressure group that camped in the region for the entire election until a near victory was achieved. This led to a number of defections to the NRM party after some necessary persuasion and convincing by Museveni pressure group. However, some of the members expected to be rewarded handsomely for the political work done. Some even alleged that their leaders had together clinched 18 billion shillings for mobilization from President Museveni.
Could NRM Secretariat give 18 billion to an individual to deliver to a group of opposition people who had crossed to NRM? And from which source? When I listened to their allegation, I did not get the source. They did not disclose the source of information where they got information that she was given 18 billion. Not until they come out openly to tell us the source of that information and who exactly issued out that big sum of money to be delivered to the people of eastern Uganda, where Mbale is inclusive.
A former chairman of the Forum for Democratic Change, Chiboko District, but now NRM Mwai Martin says those alleging that the leaders received 18 billion shillings are self-seekers, bent on creating a rift among NRM cadres in Eastern Region. Mwai thanked NRM Museveni for bringing sanity in Eastern Region, saying that crossing to NRM party does not require money, but the love for the party and patience.
These people join the NRM after elections. Now these are the people who are claiming to have been used. Being used how? It is not about money. It is not about money exchange that you can now cross to NRM. It is about patience, because we even wrote proposals, which proposals were approved by RDC. And it is even the RDCs of respective districts who are even testifying to her that they know us.
The former chairperson opposition Ginger City Lufafa Ronald recounts how he met and interacted with NRM Museveni pressure group.
We really thought that it was just a joke, but later we found that it was a way of bringing us back to our home, which is now so peaceful in a way that NRM, there is peace. When you want to get light, you'll find it in NRM. 2, you also happen to find that NRM has got a way that is moving, that it brings people to the real way. People can really make it to be so better for the development of the nation.
Lufafa Ronald condemned a group in Mbale moving around tarnishing NRM Museveni pressure group over selfish reasons.
Saying that she was given 18 billions, which is not so possible to be given to an individual moving with it. That was a false, which was almost, it was a propaganda. That was just like making somebody's name to be tarnished.
A former FDC member, Butaleja District, Walijo Hakim Mulera, warned leaders and NRM members against associating with persons that drive the party backwards with propaganda. Navende Abdukarim from Mbale says they were so desperate to get a person who could preach the NRM ideology to the people, and that the NRM Museveni pressure group was a blessing.
Mama tafranga ko bilioni 18, mama kusinzira kyetumanyiko kyasubizanga kize.
Bwire James advised members not to deviate from the NRM cause, but serve the party.
Let's cooperate, let's act mature, let's not be deviated from the point, let's support Museveni, And let's have trust in this team that was sent by Museveni to demobilize in the various regions. We shouldn't use so many words, we shouldn't blackmail each other, we shouldn't use any rude kind of language.
NRM Museveni and Area Pressure Group is optimistic that by 2026, the party will have received more converts, hence remaining in power. Sudat Kaye, UBC News.
In more news, land conflicts are becoming uglier by day, with worshipping places now becoming target for land grabbers. A case in point is the congregation of Teso Catholic Center in Kawianda Catholic Parish, Mbarara Archdiocese, who are now battling a case of land grabbing. Details follow.
Land grabbing is deteriorating by the day, and worshipping places are now being targeted as a soft spot by those seeking to acquire property. Christians of Teso Catholic Center in Kawianda Parish, Mbarara Archdiocese, are now struggling to retain what belongs to them through appealing to the powers by be in peaceful demonstrations after a church service. The councillor representing all the persons and the sub-county deputy speaker, Kikagate sub-county in Isingiro South, Musingire Bernard, says the contested land was donated to Teso Catholic Center ever since 1965.
It was a grass-thatched church by then. Then in 1969, I was studying P6 at the Rorgota Primary School. When I was from there, I was passing Chikagati. I found they had arrested 5 people, 5 Catholic people, older people. One was Rwankwizire, Yansio. Another one was Bisamunda. Another one was Bitajira. Another one was Dismas Zinabwene and Rushaku. Then they imprisoned them for about 4 days. In the fourth day, 4 people came. Rushaku perished. Since this time, we have never seen him when he was in prison.
This is after court declared in a recent verdict that the land belongs to Margaret Kibundugire, the widow of Cornelio Kwatiraho, who is known to have violently nursed the idea of grabbing this church land before he passed on.
Deba nguna tunyangaras, deba nguna tutera. Manya beibanye twakaitwa nkoni. Nyonkoni zabesire bana banje. Konka bana kunerio kwatiraho akatubona bonese. Akaba ine mbunda, ine motoka konka akatukora umurimo. Kuyishaka shenshera amuryango gwenju ne motoka.
Teso Catholic Center catechist Agnes Komshana Bagirogwabusha says they acquired the 52-hectare piece of land in 1956. They currently have a church, a school, and other developments on the contested land.
Chibondogwira grabbed this land in 1969. So that's what I know concerning with this land. We appeal to the government is that the government should intervene and give this land to the owner, the Catholics, because they acquired the land, as I have just mentioned, in 1960s. Then the other one who is just claiming this land to be hers, her husband migrated in 1962, and yet
the Christians are now seeking the support of Isingiro Resident District Commissioner and the District Police Commander against the land grabbers.
Thank you so much, Charlotte, for that wonderful story. Now we'll take a short commercial break and we'll be back with business news.
Money up. Airtel Money. 1.5 billion shillings in cash prizes up for grabs. The more you transact, the higher your chances of winning. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
Introducing the all-new Roofing's TMX 500C rebars with cut and bend surfaces. Roofing's, strength of a nation.
Guletede MTN Kabode. Esimu ya smart josobolo kwefunira olunojisasula mpola. Nkugambye yenebye yakavi ate nga tamanyi endala zonna mu katale ejjirako omuggo gwa yintaneti. Kati ky'oba okola gwenyiga *555*2# okebere oba osobola okwefunira MTN Kabode. Olumala okebera bw'oti dduka buddusi ku dduuka lya MTN lyonna eri kuli okumpi weefunire MTN Kabode. Olwo olyoka ogisasule mpola ng'osasula nnusu 15 zokka buli wiiki okumala emyezi 6 ng'okozesa MTN Momo. Weefunire Kabode kati. Dish.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
It's the festive season and we love it. And that means it's time to celebrate with GoTV.
Come with me.
So get your GoCoder and GoTV value for 25,000 shillings to watch with the whole family. And if you're feeling extra festive, upgrade to our best package yet, GoTV Super.
Something to look forward to.
Download the My GoTV app for more information.
Super.
We all deserve a super festive season. And with GoTV, there's every reason to love it.
Raising voices.
I feel happy when my father spends time with me. I hope all fathers will like my father. I want my father to reach out to all fathers. He knows how important it is to be a good father. I promise to help my father inspire other fathers to change.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
The Kabaka Birthday Run 2021 is back on Sunday 28th November 2021 and will be flagged off by Sabasajja Kabaka at 7 a.m. in support of men, good health and the fight against ending AIDS by 2030. It will be a virtual run in our various homes and communities around Uganda, with every participant following the Ministry of Health guidelines and SOPs to stop the spread of corona. Buy your ticket today at 15,000 Uganda shillings from Airtel Shops, New Park, Chagwe Road, ShopRite Building, Benchwanuka, Tobani Center, or Bulange Mengo. You can also buy your ticket using Airtel Money. Dial *185*5#. Select payment, select Kabaka Run, and follow the prompts to complete the payment. Kabaka Birthday Run 2021 brought to you by UNAIDS, CBS, BBS, and Airtel, the smartphone network.
You're still watching UBC News Tonight on the 27th of November 2021 with me, Sharon. Kyomugisha. In more stories, business stories perhaps, employees and workers under the Amalgamated Transport and General Workers Union have declared heavy losses incurred in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. Now, workers, among who were drivers, mentioned pertinent issues that included exploitation by their bosses and little payment. This was raised at the union's annual delegates meeting in Kajanzi.
Unionists under the Industrial Global Union, labor stakeholders, activists and civil society have converged in Kampala to mark the Africa Industrialization Day. The coordinator Industrial Global Union East African Charter, Catherine Aneno, says that Uganda has made great strides in setting up industrial development, but is failing to address labor exploitation by many of the industrialists.
Right now, Uganda has got industrial policy
Is it sustainable? This is the question. Were we involved as trade union in developing it? Because I looked at industrial policy of Uganda, it looks like trade union was not involved.
Aneno expressed dissatisfaction to the collapsing cotton industry in Uganda, saying that government should have invested more in reviving the cotton garment sector.
Because today, if I ask myself, how many textile industries can produce such a dress? Or the coats you're putting on? You may find that most of these coats, if you check the brands or the label, it may be crocodile, it may be other things, but not from Uganda here.
Workers' Member of Parliament Margaret Rabashaija, flanked by her counterpart Honorable Abdul Byakatonda, expressed desire to strengthen collective bargaining agreements to address the increasing precarious work conditions in the industrial sector.
We should also be strategic and also get closer. I've always talked about UZIA, that's the Uganda Small Scale Industries Association, and it's at Uma. And in that place, many people have gone there and they have started businesses. They have been supported, they have been trained to start businesses.
We are now going to compel government to see that at least they must have consultative committees. Because consultative committees are the ones that begin at the ministry, then when they are fighting, if they have disputes, then they can go to National Negotiating Council, where my senior colleague Brother Okelo sits. Then we can go to the Public Service Tribunal, then that's from what, and then naturally we shall now enforce standards.
A number of unionists in academia addressed the symposium on Uganda's industrial policy in relation to industrial sector growth.
That automation, the robots have come into the space, the drones have come into the space. Where does that leave the workers? What kind of worker shall we have in 2035?
Ambition for reward is good for us all, whether you are an employer or you are a worker. The question that we should always address ourselves to is this reward fair? Whether it's a reward for labor or a reward for capital.
The Ugandan affiliate unions include Uganda Textiles, Leather and Allied Workers Union, Uganda Hotels, Food, Tourism, Supermarkets and Allied Workers Union, Uganda Chemical, Petroleum and Allied Workers Union, National Union of Clerical, Commercial, Professional and Technical Employees Union, Uganda Mines Union, Uganda Printers, Paper, Polyfiber and Allied Workers Union. Wadulo Makanold, Douglas Setuma, UBC News.
Members of various Emyooga circles in Greater Chiboga are appealing to government to develop an internet-run system that will help to track the fund's defaulters. Emyooga is a circle-based revolving fund designed to enrich the livelihoods of citizens working in the informal sector.
Robert Orombi, the chairperson of saloon operators in Butemba constituency in Chankwanzi district, says that many of his circle members are defaulting to pay back their loans and this is hindering their performance.
Tujja kusaba fenga basalu nitwatuula netulabanga kino at least kyandibadde kitekebwamu mu nkola nti engeri tekinologiya gyagenze nga akula ennyo nga ministry mutuyambe mutulowooza tuzimbirayo ka software nti at least ne batekinikula bano basobole okutrakinga sako zino ez'enjawulo nga bakozesa software oyo abaaliwo.
Speaking to the SACCO members at different parts of Greater Chiboga, the State Minister for Microfinance, Cheyune Haruna Kasolo, says that government will do what it takes for people not to misuse this fund and asked all political leaders at different levels to work harmoniously. The State Minister is currently on a countrywide tour to assess the first phase performance of the Emyooga program before government embarks on the parish model fund. He pledges to support the well-performing SACCOs with a loan boost of up to 20 million Ugandan shillings. According to the State Minister, the primary role of this fund is to encourage Ugandans to adopt a saving culture which many SACCO members are starting to adopt.
People have not embraced the saving culture in the two districts, Chiboga and the Chankwanzi. So, but at least 50 they have at least tried, but to a smaller extent. So I have encouraged my teams to always continue with the capacity building and trainings so that these people can actually embrace saving culture. They should not save because they want to secure a loan. The saving should be part of their daily routine.
Emyooga beneficiaries applauded the visionary leadership of His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni for setting up an effective socio-economic empowerment program.
Government in NRM yasobola okutunuulira tweyanziza nnyo tweyanzeege.
Sharon district ffe abasookera ddala kufuna ssente nga 3 okwe-12 ssente ezatuukira ddala ku akawunti yaffe.
Twafuna obukadde 16 mu 2 naye nga twasevinga obukadde 5 mu 82. Pozi ssente ezo tukoze bulungi yatuzizza.
Beneficiaries have also been warned not to politicize the Emyooga program, and an appeal has been made to government to proportion sufficient funds that facilitate community development officers who monitor the program.
Chairpersons and leaders, you're supposed to help show us, for example, which Emyooga has contributed greatly to the livelihood improvement of our people, and we shall be asking you. So please take keen interest in this. This is not a party-related project. This is not money for NRM. This is not money for Mr. Museveni and his cabinet, but it is money for all Ugandans.
Chankwanzi district has over 36 working circles and received a tune of 1.120 billion Ugandan shillings, where 360 million has so far been saved and 150 million so far has been recovered from the circle members.
Kuletedde MTN Kabode esimu ya smart gy'osobola okwefunira olwo n'ogisasula mpola nkugambye yeneeri eyakabi ate nga tamanyi endala zonna mu katale ejjirako omuggo gwa yintaneti kati ky'oba okola gwenyiga *65*5*2# okebere oba osobola okwefunira MTN Kabode olumala okebera bw'oti dduka buddusi ku dduuka lya MTN lyonna eri kuli okumpi weefunire MTN Kabode olwo olyoka ogisasule mpola ng'osasula nnusu 15 zokka buli wiiki okumala emyezi 6 ng'okozesa MTN Momo weefunire Kabode kati dish.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Well, because of time, that's all we had for you for now. Thank you so much for watching UBC News Night with me, Sharon, Kyomugisha and Mugalu Mohammed on Sign Language. Do join us again at 10 p.m. for more news coming your way, and stay tuned for the Business Roundup with Mark Arnold Wadula.
Transact and win money after money with Airtel Money. 1.5 billion shillings in cash prizes up for grabs. The more you transact, the higher your chances of winning. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
and welcome to this week's episode of the Weekly Business Roundup. With me, your host, Wadulo Mark Arnold. We're glad you've tuned in, and these are the big stories this week. Government releases 100 billion Ugandan shillings loan for recovery of small and medium enterprises. 25 solar mini-grids commissioned in northern Uganda. Government warns against vandalism of electricity infrastructure, and we give you an insight of the developments on the Central Corridor route. For these and more, stay tuned. It's time for business. 25 solar mini-grids have been commissioned by the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development in Lamore District, northern Uganda. Now, while unveiling the mini-grid plants, Okasayo Polot, the State Minister for Energy, underscored the importance of adopting renewable energy technologies in order to address the energy demand of millions of underserved people across the country.
The 25 mini-grids constructed in northern Uganda are powered by solar, a renewable, reliable and eco-friendly source of energy. For a remote area like Palago Sub-County in Lamore District, northern Uganda, this initiative presents immense opportunities with potential for productive use of electricity.
Most of our environment is actually being devastated because of charcoal and firewood. We are relying on biomass. We have got to turn that story around using the vast energy potential that we have. Cooking is the major part which takes our biomass.
We want Uganda to move forward and the economy to pick up, and for that, electrification is a precondition. Solar panels for charging phones and running a TV are nice to have, but not nearly good enough. What we need is to produce energy that is sufficient for private businesses and that rely on a constant energy supply.
Besides helping to mitigate climate change, the adoption of solar energy for businesses and home use can tackle rural to urban migration challenge.
I'm pleased to announce that over the next 5 years, we will continue to support this sector, as provision of sustainable energy is an essential prerequisite to achieve sustainable and inclusive growth and foster job creation. Both on-grid and off-grid technologies will be needed to provide electric energy to more than 20 million Ugandans who currently have no access to it.
The local community here is urged to utilize electricity to transform their livelihoods by establishing businesses and adding value to their agricultural produce.
Let us strategically mobilize our commodities, valuable commodities, to be processed by this power. Let us mobilize the farmers to grow much more. Because if we continue at this level of subsistence, we are going to miss it.
This is the hardware, but the hardware, if you don't use it properly, is just the hardware. And if we come back, maybe, Minister, in about 2 years, you and I, we would probably like to see something flourishing.
Minister of Energy under the National Development Plan 3 has prioritized the development of mini power grids, and within the next 4 years, at least 200 plants will be set up across the country. The 40 mini grids, 25 in Lamore District and 15 in Isinjiro and Rakai districts, are funded by the European Union and the German government to a tune of 18 billion Ugandan shillings. Dennis Igor and Charlotte Amuge for UBC News.
The Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development has provided an initial fund size of 100 billion Ugandan shillings under the Small Business Recovery Fund to provide affordable financing loans to businesses affected by COVID-19 pandemic prevention measures. The Small Business Recovery Fund is hinged on various research reports that highlight the cost of capital, cost of transport, the cost and efficiency of power, and the cost and adaptation of technology being the major binding constraints to SMEs.
Therefore, this intervention of the Small Business Recovery Fund seeks to address the first constraint to the relatively high cost of capital and high interest rates, but specifically this time for those businesses which
have been impacted by the pandemic. There are also strategies we are putting in place to accelerate, to build on this momentum and accelerate it to ensure that we get back to our target growth rate and also raising household incomes.
Some of the eligibility terms for the loans include a small business operated by individuals, groups, partners and companies employing 5 to 49 people with an annual turnover of 10 million to 100 million Ugandan shillings.
Accordingly, the fund will support small businesses that suffered financial distress because of the pandemic so that they recover. The participating financial institutions will match the government contribution of 100 billion to form a consortium pool of 200 billion Uganda shillings. A borrower or group of related parties shall only access financing once under the fund, once.
The maximum loan amount to a borrower will be 100 million shillings with interest rates of not more than 10% per annum.
So the commercial cost of money does not change for banks, but because the money will be blended with interest-free money from government, that's how the final rate comes down, right? So if you're going to borrow, for argument's sake, 10 million, 5 came from government at 0 interest, 5 came from the bank with the bank interest. When it comes together, you're able to borrow 10 million at 10%.
What you see is a product of intense negotiations by different stakeholders. And I would say that overall, what you see is a good package in the following ways. One, in the sense that it specifies who the beneficiaries are. So this means that larger businesses won't benefit from this. Two, it excludes people who have been benefiting from the agricultural credit facility already. Three, it ensures that an interest rate of 10% is only paid on the portion that's provided by the financial institutions.
The goal of this revolving fund is to enhance the capability of small businesses to recover and resume operations at the levels and beyond positions they were at before government instituted the standard operation procedures. Wadulo Makanold for UBC News in Kampala. Investors have been urged to support small innovations and startups towards economic recovery and financial inclusion. This was at the opening of the Kampala Innovation Week 2021.
Startup Uganda, in conjunction with the United Nations Capital Development Fund (UNCDF), has inaugurated the Kampala Innovation Week at Design Hub Bugorobi with a clarion call to Ugandan investors to support new innovations.
So that other sources of financing, commercial banks, other investors, whether they be equity investors or what have you, are more comfortable to come in and invest in these startups. And so that's the idea, that we play an unlocking role, a catalytic role, in order to be able to attract additional financing to the sector.
The exhibition intends to harness job creation through interaction between innovators and entrepreneurs.
While we're really enterprising and there's a lot of incubator programs to support that, we still have a long way to go. Internet accessibility. So when you talk about bringing these technologies and solutions to rural places, the connection is really bad. Financial inclusion in Uganda is still being challenged by inadequate and poorly spread infrastructure, which calls for policy responses. Because a lot of these financial institutions need to understand what these financial structures do for these startups and how the need to subsidize those, like interest rates, but also the bodies that we're partnering with need to hear the cry of the startups.
The right knowledge to use these platforms, the right skills. You need to have the right policies in place to make sure that it's an enabling environment.
Financial technologies have been identified as the main component to facilitate development of small businesses and expanding financial inclusion.
Because innovators are able to take solutions that are more available in urban settings and to extend them to last mile communities by fostering these partnerships, by communicating with big providers and being able to broker deals.
The exhibition of Kampala Innovation Week is to run for 5 days, specifically to facilitate and explore the role of innovation entrepreneurs in achieving Uganda's development ambitions of enhancing digital technologies and community transformation. Abdul Nasili Lubwama, UBC News.
Vandals destroying electricity infrastructure will be dealt with like the terrorists, warns Ruth Nankabira, the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development. According to Nankabira, government has lost 260 billion shillings worth of power infrastructure in the last 2 years. In another development, stakeholders in the energy sector have discussed matters concerning the sector at the second edition of the Chigo Thinkers Baraza.
The Minister of Energy and Mineral Development has sent a stern warning to vandals who are destroying electricity infrastructure across the country.
We are going to kuchagua like we used to hunt for illegal fishermen catching immature fish on Lake Victoria and other lakes. We need to work out an operation mechanism, and we have started on this.
Ms. Rose Nankabirwa, who was addressing the media on the sidelines of the Power Forum 2021, likened vandalism to terrorism and deliberate economic sabotage.
The vandalized electricity infrastructure assets are believed to be sold to scrap or steel and aluminium smelters, some service providers of the energy sector who source materials locally, traders of electricity materials.
Her concerns come at a time when the country is registering losses in billions of shillings annually in replacing vandalized towers on the existing power lines across the country. It is estimated that government has lost over 260 billion shillings in the last 2 years. Relatedly, various stakeholders from the public and private sector have shared their thoughts pertaining to the current status of the electricity subsector. This was at the second edition of Chigo Thinkers Baraza on electricity.
Is that true? That they collect taxes, you pay for power that is not consumed? And the era is telling you now at least Karuma and Simba is not part of the tariff structure.
The high electricity tariff, remerging of the current electricity bodies, and the Umeme concession that is approaching its end were the topical issues.
You remerge, because I'm not yet very clear how remerging is going to clearly deal with the issues affecting us at hand right now, particularly the issue of tariffs. Having told you what is driving tariffs, issues of negotiating PPAs in dollars, and then the revenue is collected in shillings, issues about unsolicited proposals or unsolicited bids.
We've got to make a decision. Can we make a smooth divorce with Umeme? Or are we going to be with Umeme? If we decide to be with Umeme, let's not always threaten them with being thrown out, because that way they don't invest.
Even as the scope of the private sector participation is increasing in the electricity subsector, financial stability and good institutional governance was emphasized by the panel. Dennis Igor and Charlotte Muge for UBC Business.
Members of various Emyooga circles in Greater Chiboga are appealing to government to develop an internet-run system that will help to track the fund's defaulters. Emyooga is a circle-based revolving fund designed to enrich the livelihoods of citizens working in the informal sector. Robert Orombi, the chairperson of saloon operators in Butemba constituency in Chankwanzi district, says that many of his circle members are defaulting to pay back their loans, and this is hindering their performance.
Tujja kusaba fenga basaluni twatuula ne tulabanga kino at least kyandibadde kitekebwamu mu nkola nti engeri tekinologiya gyagenze nga akula ennyo nga ministry mutuyambe mutulowooza tuzimbirayo ka software nti at least ne batekinikula tisibano basobole okutwakinga sako zino ez'enjawulo nga bakozesa software oyo abaaliwo.
Speaking to the SACCO members at different parts of Greater Chiboga, the State Minister for Microfinance, Cheyune Haruna Kasolo, says that government will do what it takes for people not to misuse this fund, and asked all political leaders at different levels to work harmoniously. The State Minister is currently on a countrywide tour to assess the first phase performance of the Emyooga program before government embarks on the Parish Model Fund. He pledges to support the well-performing SACCOs with a loan boost of up to 20 million Ugandan shillings. According to the State Minister, the primary role of this fund is to encourage Ugandans to adopt a saving culture, which many SACCO members are starting to adopt.
People have not embraced saving culture in the two districts, Kyomugisha and the Chankwanzi. So, but at least 50 they have at least tried, but to a smaller extent. So I have encouraged my teams to always continue with the capacity building and trainings so that these people can actually embrace saving culture. They should not save because they want to secure a loan. The saving should be part of their daily routine.
Emyooga beneficiaries applauded the visionary leadership of His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni for setting up an effective socio-economic empowerment program.
Government in NRM yasobola okutunuulira tweyanziza nnyo tweyanzeege. Chankwanzi district ffe abasookera ddala kufuna ssente nga 3 ogw'E12 ssente ezatuukira ddala ku akaunti yaffe. Twafuna obukadde 16 n'otwanamu 2 naye nga twasevinga obukadde 5 n'otwalo 82. Pozi ssente ezo tukoze bulungi yatuzizza.
Beneficiaries have also been warned not to politicize the Emyooga program, and an appeal has been made to government to proportion sufficient funds that facilitate community development officers who monitor the program.
Chairpersons and leaders, you are supposed to help show us, for example, which Emyooga has contributed greatly to the livelihood improvement of our people, and we shall be asking you. So please take keen interest in this. This is not a party-related project. This is not money for NRM. This is not money for Mr. Museveni and his cabinet, but it is money for all Ugandans.
Chankwanzi district has over 36 working SACCOs and received a tune of 1.120 billion Ugandan shillings, where 360 million has so far been saved and 150 million so far has been recovered from the SACCO members. The Tanzanian Central Corridor is becoming the export-import route of choice for Uganda, a land-linked country. Its efficient multimodal transport system involving water, road and rail is lauded for reducing transport costs and boosting route reliability. Dennis Signola with a report.
Roofings Group is one of the largest exporters to Tanzania through the port of Mwanza, and they can attest to this. Since starting to export through the Central Corridor, there have been tangible benefits not only to the company but to their wholesale and retail customers across the vast Lake Victoria.
So we've been exporting to Tanzania, especially the northern part of Mwanza. But we are doing very well. We've been sending there our sheets originally, which we make from here. When we expanded to Namamve, where we started doing where we have a cold rolling mill that does the coil galvanizing process and color coating, we actually introduced our coils, which were originally importing from Japan, but now they are made in Uganda. We are making them from here. We introduced them to Tanzania.
His sentiments are re-echoed by Otim Gilbert, the communications manager at Starbex International, an oil marketing company. After more than 16 years of stalled importation of petroleum products through the port of Mwanza to Port Bell, Uganda, Starbex has taken the lead. Currently, Starbex International imports at least 6 million liters of diesel and petroleum from Dar es Salaam, a quantity that will increase exponentially over the coming years as the company expands its business to cover the whole country. The last 5 shipments you've had using Mwanza Port Bay route, how has it been for you?
It has been very good. The Tanzanian rails are very perfect, they're in perfect condition. We don't have any slide accidents, meaning that the wagons can rail off the rails. We don't have the rails. A number of the rails usually happen
on our Kisumu route, usually we have such minor accidents, but in the central corridor, we haven't heard of the challenge.
Kakira Sugar, based in Ginger, and Bidco, the manufacturers of cooking oil, are also the biggest players on this export and import corridor. These new developments on the central corridor prompted a high-level business delegation to visit Uganda. The Tanzanian public and private sector stakeholders who were in Kampala recently were led by the new Tanzanian Ports Authority boss, Benedict Hamisi.
But overall, generally, the testimony that we have in place and the comparative analysis that we have, this route had managed to cut down 40% of the cost. And as I said, we are now improving. The cost element goes with time. So we want to have a very short time of shipment from Dar es Salaam to Kampala. In the past it used to be 4 days, but we are pledging to have 3 days.
There have been a lot of improvement on the central corridor route, including the rehabilitation of the meter gauge railway from Dar es Salaam port to Mwanza, and also to Isaka and to Kigoma, but specifically for Mwanza because of the Ugandan cargo. And another improvement is the port has just received new equipment, new handling equipment, a number of them for handling the containers and others. And also
However, as the central corridor's popularity increases, there is a matter that needs urgent attention. Ugandan business community who frequently use the central corridor want more ships with large capacity introduced.
Importation has not been so much because we expected to have more than 10 million liters coming per week. But sometimes you may find that the availability of the vessel.
The vessels, if they were also very available, it would also enhance on how much more we can export. But then a bit of delays for the vessels to come. We were doing like once a month, then there has been an improvement. It came to once bi-weekly. Then now at least we can do twice a week. But we would love to see every day there is something leaving us here going, especially to Tanzania. We are very much now talking about Tanzania.
Their hopes have been on the return of MV Pamba, whose maiden sail after more than a decade of stalling continues to be delayed.
They are doing the final cargo testing. We've already secured a flag certificate from the government, and by the end of this month, the vessel should be able to start fully operating.
As Uganda and Tanzania strengthen their economic relationship, a vast array of opportunities continues to open up for private sector players.
My request to you, Private Sector Foundation of Uganda and Tanzania Private Sector Foundation, is to establish maybe an online portal for business directory between the two countries.
This is supported by an enabling legal and regulatory framework and improvements in infrastructure provided by the respective governments. Dennis Igoa and Charlotte Amuge for UBC News.
Kenya Ports Authority has celebrated 25 years since the inception of its Kampala liaison office in 1996. The country office has brought services closer to the customers and over the years increased Uganda's market share of cargo passing through the port of Mombasa to 23.7%.
The Northern Corridor, served by the Port of Mombasa in Kenya, is still the most preferable import and export route for Uganda. Over the years, the market share has grown exponentially, reaching 23.7% in 2020.
Uganda, as it is, it's one of the major users of the Port of Mombasa, second to Kenya. So we are celebrating a relationship. And I hear people are talking about marriage, but you know what has happened to marriage these days? Ours is not marriage, it's a brotherly bond.
Port of Mombasa has increased its efficiency. It has been automated, and as we are talking now, officers of URA are based in Mombasa, where they make sure there is the issue of taxation.
The increase in transit cargo has led to appropriate investments towards modernization and expansion of the port facilities. KPA Kampala office is credited for reducing time taken on getting feedback on the status of cargo to Uganda and verification of port charges.
We started with shares of 14%. What came through the port of Mombasa, the total throughput or cargo volumes, 14% was Uganda cargo. Right now, Uganda has grown tremendously, and it contributes to 25% of everything that is delivered at the port of Mombasa. If you look at the transit market means the land-linked countries. That is Uganda. Uganda is the biggest. You have Rwanda, you have Burundi, you have Eastern DR Congo, and South Sudan. Out of that, what comes through the port of Mombasa, 70% is consumed locally, that is Kenyan market, 30% in the transit markets.
Kenya has completed the connection between the SGR, standard gauge railway from Naivasha, to the meter gauge railway at a place called Longnot. Now, that is good news for us as Uganda, because then you rail your cargo from Mombasa into Naivasha ICD on SGR, then move it on MGR, the ordinary line, the meter gauge, up to Maraba. As you are aware, the Uganda government is also doing repairs on the meter gauge. So I can without doubt confirm that we are going to even move from the 4 days to even 2.
Despite the unprecedented impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Port of Mombasa handled 25.17 million tons from January to September, compared to 25.05 million tons in the corresponding period in 2020, which is believed to be a notable sign of resilience. Charlotte Amuge for UBC Business.
The other thing that is monitored by the government is to make sure that there is no shortage in the country. Now, we as government set what we call a reserve price. Reserve price is to ensure that our players do not overcharge you at the pump. As we speak, no one has exceeded the reserve price that we set as a country.
As we draw closer to the festive season, our partner Kampala Serena Hotel lit its Christmas tree. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
My name is James Odenyo, the food and beverage manager. I'm here to launch this special occasion. It's all about Christmas. Look behind me. We are launching the Christmas tree. What we are saying is that the season is here and Serena is open. We've got creative packages for our guests. Our staycation is here once again. Very interesting rates. So you can choose to leave your home and come and stay in Serena. Remember, it's about food. This time around, as part of corporate social responsibility, we have partnered with the Elderly Network Finance Trust located in Mukono to share love with the vulnerable, and these are the elderly. So we shall be teaming up with the network, a foundation, to tell the elderly that there's another chance. And our dream is to enlist into the objectives of the network. It's a very exciting concept that we believe will not only be for Christmas, but will be for something to remember in months or years to come.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Weekly Business Roundup. Join us next week, same time, same place. We're coming to you from the Kampala Serena Hotel. From the team and I, it's good night.